I would like to learn about your experience of gender in the workplace. First, can you describe where you work in as much detail as possible?
I am an elementary school teacher. I work in a traditional public school that has kindergarten through fifth grade students. We have about 560 students and about 55 personnel that work there, including teachers, teacher aides, specialists, a principal. We do not have a vice principal, so he is our only kind of superior, for lack of a better word, he's kind of the only boss. We have, I think, 20% second language learners, and it's in a neighborhood in the Denver Tech Center. I have been teaching for 20 years. This is my 5th school, and I teach second graders currently.
Do you notice any differences between what the men do and what activities women do?
Yes, I definitely notice a difference between what my teammate, who is a man, does versus what we do. I notice that myself and my 2 female coworkers use a lot of words when teaching, whereas he is more direct and to the point with his students. I also notice it in the way that he creates a classroom environment. There's just not as much decor on the walls, but there's a lot of good learning that's happening in the classroom. It's just not displayed for everyone to see.
Okay. Can you tell me about a time that your own gender or the gender of a coworker was an issue?
This was probably about 15 years ago. I worked on a team with 3 men and 1 other lady, and one of the students in one of the male teachers' classrooms wanted to sit on his lap during an assembly, and he said no. And then that same student asked to sit on my female coworker's lap, and she said yes, and it was totally fine. And I remember at that time thinking, gosh, it was smart of him to say no, whereas she could think nothing of it and let that student be comforted or comfortable sitting on her lap.
All right. So I guess you kind of mentioned this, but being a teacher, can you describe a few ways that students react differently to the gender of their teacher that you've noticed?
I think that when there is a male in the room, I think kids respond differently initially. I think until they get to know you, and build relationship with you, they are much more respectful to a male voice being in the classroom rather than a female voice. But I think that all kind of breaks down and that kids get more comfortable as they get to know you. But I think initially, definitely, they respond to a male differently than they do a female.
Do you notice any differences in leadership roles that might be influenced by gender?
Yes. I currently work in a school where the principal is a male. He has been there, this is his 4th year, and there are probably about 5 men that work in the school, a PE teacher, and then several other positions that are held by men, teachers, and also specialists. And by that I mean like a English as a second language teacher. And I've noticed that since he's come to our school, he has given more leadership opportunities to those men, whereas before, the principal, who was a woman, did not offer those opportunities to those men as much.
So how has him giving those leadership opportunities impacted you or other female workers?
I think it makes it harder to work in an environment where you don't feel like you're getting the same opportunities as your male counterparts. I definitely feel like there's favoritism given to men, and it makes me want to look for another position. It makes me want to be in another school where I can get some leadership opportunities, because I have an education specialist degree and I'd like to be able to use it and haven't been given those opportunities. It's not fair. It just doesn't feel good. And even though we don't have a gender gap in our pay scale, because it's a contracted position and the pay scale is not negotiated, we get a certain amount for education years and then also experience years. There's not a pay gap, there's an opportunity gap.
Right.
And that is very disheartening and frustrating to try to, I feel like I have to work harder to get opportunities, whereas because they're men, it appears that they're just given those opportunities.